Hey everyone, Math 106. We're working on section 4.3 today, converting between percent, decimal, and fraction. So depending on the application, different forms of numbers are required. As we saw when we were looking at pitches of roofs, those are usually expressed as a fraction. But in road construction, the grade of a road, its slope, is usually expressed as a percent. And decimals, well, they're all over the place. So it's important to be able to convert between all these different forms of what is basically the same number. So we're going to start with the definition of percent. Cent is the Latin word for 100. And so you may see a bunch of English words that have cent in them, like century, 100 years. Centipede, something with, well, approximately 100 legs. The word percent can be read as per cent or per centum. Now, per is a keyword in mathematics meaning division. So that means divided by 100, per centum. And that leads us to the definition of percent. So if we have some number as a percent, what that really means is we're taking that number and dividing by 100. And once we do that, we get a decimal. And those two things are equal. That decimal form is equal to the percent form. So we can take any fraction with 100 in the denominator and immediately convert it to a percent using the definition of percent. So how that works is we just take the numerator, right? The numerator's n, and write that with a percent sign behind it. So 47 out of 100 is 47%. Those two things are equal. Your turn, number one. Write that as a percent. Doesn't matter that it's a number over 100, it still works exactly the same way. That is 253%. And it works the same way with decimal numbers too. You can have a decimal that's a percent. 0.023, and then percent sign behind it, so 0.023%. Your turn, number two. All right, take that numerator, followed by a percent sign, 0.9%. Now we're going to change percents to decimals. So you can see the procedure, the top of the page. All right, we're changing from percent to a decimal, so we need to get rid of the percent sign. That's going to be the first step. Drop the percent sign. And then take the decimal point. If there's no decimal, it's to the right of the rightmost digit, and move it 2 places to the left. So 99% is 0.99. If you look back to the definition of percent, going from 99% to 99 divided by 100. When we divide by a power of 10, such as 100, all we have to do that is move that decimal point. So that's why we're moving the decimal 2 places to the left, is because we're dividing by 100. All right, 284%. Again, decimal starts to the right of the rightmost digit. 2 to the left gets us between the 2 and the 8, so that is 2.84. So notice when we have a percent that's greater than 100, greater than the whole thing, we get a number that's greater than 1. .7%. So now we got a decimal point starting between the 8 and the 7. We're going to move 2 to the left. One move gets us to the left of the 8, and then another move is going to get us 1 over from 8. So we're going to have to put a 0 in there, a 0 after the decimal point. All right, just ignore that 0. That 0 is just a convention to make sure we see the decimal point. But the actual 0 is here. So we get 1 0 to the left of the 8, .087. And here we've got a number that's 0.017, so we have 1 0. If we move it 2 to the left, we're going to have 3 zeros. So it's 0.00017. Your turn, number 3. So the first one, decimal point starts to the left of the 5. We're going to move it 2 places. So we get 1 0 and then a second 0. So 0, 0, 5, 1. $395, we'll move 2 to the left to get 3.95. Again, percentage greater than 100 gets us a number greater than 1. 0.06%. So we have 1 0, it's going to turn into 3 zeros. 0.0006. And then 42%, we're starting to the right of the 2, go 2 to the left, we get 0.42. So here's our definition of percent. So let's say I wanted to get n by itself. Well, I could multiply both sides of this equation by 100. The 100s over here are going to cancel. And then I get n equals 100 times n%. What we're going to do now is change decimal to a percent. So the first thing, we're going to move the decimal point 2 places to the right. So we're starting off with some decimal number here. And to get to a percent, we need to multiply by 100. Alright, so here's our decimal. Let's say our n is 0.38. If I want to convert it to something with a percent sign on the end, I have to take that n and multiply by 100. When we multiply by 100, that has the effect of taking that decimal point and moving it 2 places to the right. So that's the justification for step 1. Move the decimal point 2 places to the right because we're multiplying by 100. And then just put the percent sign on the end. So for part A, we have 0.38. We'll move the decimal 2 to the right and get 38. So 0.38 equals 38%. And for B, we have 0.0018. Right, so take that decimal, move it 2 to the right, and we get 0.18. So this is 0.18%. $1.45. Here we have a number greater than 1, so we move it 2 to the right, we're going to get a percent that's greater than 100, 145%. And then part D, we got 13. So the decimal starts to the right of 3. If we move it 2 to the right, that's going to give us 2 zeros. So that is 1,300%. Your turn, number 4. Part A. Start here, move 2 to the right. We get 0.58%. Next one, 2 to the right, takes that decimal and puts it between the 9 and the 1, so that is 9.1%. Now for 8, decimal starts to the right of the 8. We'll need to move 2 to the right and put 2 zeros there, so that is 800%. And for 0.74, 2 to the right gives us 74. So that's 74%. Next up, we're going to change percents into fractions. So going back to our definition of percent, we can always write a percent as that number over 100. And so that's what we're going to do to change percents into fractions. That'll be the first step. So for example, 5, we're going to change 60% into its fraction form, 60 over 100. And now all we have to do is reduce the fraction. So just a reminder, this fraction reduction can all be done on your calculator. Take 60, divide by 100 to get a decimal value, and then take that decimal and convert it back to a fraction, and that fraction will automatically be in simplest form. So simplest form of that fraction is 3/5. So 60% corresponds to the fraction 3/5. Your turn, number 5. So using the definition of percent, write this as a fraction over 100, 18 over 100. And when we reduce this, simplest form is 9 over 50. So let's find, as long as we have proper fractions, meaning the numerator is smaller than the denominator. What about improper fractions? Well, improper fractions can either be expressed as an improper fraction or as a mixed number. And depending on the purpose, sometimes one's better than the other. If we're going to do further calculations, the improper fraction is better. So you always need improper fractions to do calculations like multiplication, division with fractions. But a mixed number is better for conveying information. So we're going to convert 235% to both an improper fraction and a mixed number. Alright, 235% written as a fraction, that's 235 over 100. Now Now this fraction can be reduced, and it can also be converted to a decimal. So we can get any form out of this. If we want to convert to a decimal, divide this out, we get 2.35. You can always do that. We can also use a calculator to reduce this. So this could also equal 47 over 20. So there's reduced form. And then calculators will often convert between this form and mixed number. So just make sure you can do all of these conversions with a calculator. We need to be able to go between all these different forms. Percent, decimal, fraction, improper fraction, mixed number. All right, practice this with your turn number 6. Convert 375% to both an improper fraction and a mixed number. Okay. Changing 375% to both an improper fraction and any mixed number. So writing as a fraction, we got 375 over 100. We can always convert it to a decimal if we want that. So we could do that. Now, let's reduce this. Simplest form will be 15/4. So take 375. Once we convert it to a decimal, then use your calculator function to convert that to improper fraction. And sometimes they give you a mixed number first. You got to convert that one. So the mixed number is 3 3/4. Now sometimes a number is presented as a percent with a mixed number in it. Now anything can be a percent, it's just another number. It's just presented in a different form. So let's take a look at example 7. It's important to understand exactly what a mixed number is. 14 3/8 percent. Well, 14 3/8 is just 14 plus the fraction 3/8. So if you want to find out what this number is, you could just stick in your calculator 14 plus 3 divided by 8. And that will give you the decimal for 149, nope, sorry, wrong one, 14.375. So this is 14.375%. So the first thing you can do is just take that mixed number and turn it into a decimal. All right, now we need to take this number and we're going to convert this to a decimal. So to convert percent to a decimal, we're going to divide by 100. So take this decimal and move it 2 places to the left. So we get 0.14375. And now that we have a decimal, convert this back to a fraction. And we get 23 over 160. So 14 3/8% is 23 over 160. All right, so make sure you can convert between any of these forms. Give the answer we're looking for. All right, your turn number 7. Change 149 and 5/7% to a fraction in simplest form. So in a calculator, go 149 plus 5 divided by 7. That's going to give us a decimal. Now there are a lot of numbers here. 149.714, this 5/7, that's one of those infinite decimals, goes on forever. So in your calculator, just keep all those numbers. And then to convert this percent to a decimal, divide by 100, take all. That whole number, just divide it by 100, you get 1.49714, ... and the numbers keep going. Just keep all those numbers in your calculator, and then finally take that number and convert it right to a fraction. And if we do that, we get 262 over 175. So practice with your calculator enough until you've got this stuff down so that it's easy. All right, next up, we're going to change a fraction to a decimal and a percent. So we're going to take the fraction 3 over 13 and convert this to a decimal and a percent. So this is just straightforward. The fraction bar indicates division. So do 3 divided by 13 and get a decimal number. So we get 0.230769. All right, so there's the decimal. To convert to a percent then, we're going to do what we did before. We're going to take that decimal point and move it 2 to the right. So that is 23.0769%. And then, depending on the problem, you may be asked to round to a certain digit. So in the example, we round to the nearest hundredth. All right, hundredth place is second over from the decimal point, so that is 0.08, because 6 is greater than 5, so we increment that one to 8. So it's approximately 23.08%. Your turn, number 8. Get a couple of them there. Convert 5/16 to a percent, round to the nearest hundredth if necessary. All right, so we divide this in the calculator, we get 0.3125. Move the decimal 2 to the right, we get 31.25%. And we're right up to the hundredth, so no rounding needed. Now we'll do 13 over 8. So improper fraction, this is going to give us a value greater than 1, 1.625. When we divide that out, 13 divided by 8, then move 2 to the right, we get 162.5%. All right, so now we have the capability to change between any of these forms. So let's practice, fill in these 3 tables. All right, first one, we got 3/8 given 0.386 and 27%. All right, first one, in the calculator, divide 3 divided by 8, get 0.375. If you get a percent, take that decimal, move it 2 to the right, and we have 37.5%. Next up, decimal. Take this number, type it in your calculator, convert to a fraction. We get 193 over 500. Take the decimal, 2 to the right, we get 38.6%. And now we're starting with a percent, so we'll go 2 to the left with the decimal, get 0.27. And then take that, plug it into the calculator, convert to a fraction. It's going to be 27 over 100. Next up, 27 divided by 350, we get a little decimal there. And we divide those, 0.077. And convert to a percent, 2 to the right, we get 7.7%. All right, this one, 2 to the right, 4.25%. And then stick that in the calculator, convert to a fraction, and that is 17 over 400. And finally, 5 3/4%. So this is one where we want to do 5 plus 3/4, which is 5.75%. Now that we have as a decimal, move it 2 to the left and get 0.0575. And finally convert that to a fraction, 23 over 400. Finally, 18/3. Divide that out, we get the whole number 6. Decimal starts to the right of the 6. 2 to the right gives us 600%. Here, we got a number greater than 1, so move it to the right. We're going to get a percent greater than 100%. 318.75%. And then converting that to a fraction, we get 51/16 as an improper fraction. And the instructions say, write all improper fractions also as a mixed number, so convert that to a mixed number. We've got 3 and 3/16. And finally, 290%, 2 to the left gives us 2.9. Convert to a fraction, we get 29 over 10, which equals 2 9/10 as a mixed number. So that completes section 4.3. I recommend whatever calculator you're going to use on the exam, just practice, going between all these different forms until you've got them down so you don't even have to think about it.